Johnny Depp looked me in the eyes and asked one question. It was so simple it scared me. He said, "Captain, are you okay?" I could have lied. I almost did. I had been told to smile. I had been told to keep it light. I had been told not to get pulled into anything that might blow up later. But my voice did something I didn't plan. It trembled, and I said, "No, not really. I'm the daughter of a nurse and a mechanic who taught me to measure twice and cut once. I am also a Navy captain, but not the kind you see in movies with silver hair and a row of ribbons as thick as a book. I'm young for the job." Some people used other words: rookie, experiment, lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt like I was balancing on a thin line, trying to hold my team together in a world that doesn't slow down for fear or pain. That morning I had a speech tucked into my pocket, the kind with safe phrases and soft edges. It had words like honor and pride and service. It had no names. It did not have the name of a sailor who folded his uniform too neatly before he was gone. It did not have the name of a cook who sent home a birthday card with a smile drawn on the envelope and then stopped answering messages. It did not have the name of my friend who never looked me in the eyes again after that storm because he didn't want me to see the shape of his grief. I had another paper in my pocket too. It was a letter I had written and never sent. It was to a mother who had asked me if her son seemed happy. I had typed a reply and saved it and closed my laptop and told myself I would find a kinder way to tell her we were doing our best. I never sent it because our best had not felt like enough. I was tired of the weight of words I didn't say. Johnny was on base for a small visit, nothing huge, nothing planned to be news. A mutual friend had reached out to our public affairs officer. He was passing through, he said, and wanted to meet some of the crew. I didn't know him. I knew the idea of him, the way you know an actor from the roles that become part of your memory without your permission. I thought it would be one more kind moment I would nod at while thinking of 1,000 other things. I thought it would be a few photos, a few laughs, a brief thank you, and then back to work. When my chief told me I would be the one to greet him, my stomach tightened. I didn't want to be the headline for a day. I wanted to get my crew through the week. But I said yes because I have learned that you say yes when it matters to others. You show up, you do it with a good heart, you keep your guard up only where it keeps people safe. He was quiet, in that way where you can feel someone paying attention. He didn't fill silence with noise. He listened. He asked people about their jobs. He asked simple things. What do you fix when it breaks? What do you miss when you're away? What do you tell your family when you can't tell them much? He didn't look like he wanted to be anywhere else. He didn't act like a spotlight. He acted like a person who knew that being seen is not the same as being watched. I kept my hands folded. I kept my voice, even. I watched my crew open up. I watched the young ones grin. I watched the older ones relax, and I felt my throat tighten because I didn't know how to breathe around a kindness I hadn't made room for in days. I had a plan for my speech later: safe, tight, clean. Our people had looked it over, no surprises, no rough edges. The script was set: do not wander, do not bleed, do not spill what you cannot mop up. I had swallowed those rules like pills without water. My chest was raw from it. At some point when the small talk got quiet, Johnny stepped closer and tilted his head, the way you tilt your head when you're listening for something hard to hear. He looked at my name tape, then at my face. "Captain," he said, "are you okay?" I could have said yes. I could have made a joke. I could have shrugged. I could have said something about how okay is a scale and the needle is wobbling, but we're fine, thanks for asking. But the word that came out of me was small and round and sharp at the edges. "No," I said. "Not really." I don't know why I trusted him. Maybe because he asked like he wanted the truth. Maybe because I was tired of the press of words that never touched the wound. He didn't look away. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't turn it into a performance. He just nodded like he had expected it. "Do you want to talk?" he asked. "No," I said. And then I added, "Yes." And then I added, "I can't." Because sometimes the truth is a fog. You can't see the shape of it until you walk into it and get lost. He said, in a voice as steady as the edge of a table, "If you can't talk to me, talk to them. They already know. They're waiting for you to say it first." His words felt like a key in a lock. I didn't know I was still carrying. I felt the click of it. It scared me. It gave me breath. Just before I went up to speak, my executive officer touched my elbow and whispered, "Stick to the notes, ma'am." I nodded. I told myself I would be good. I told myself I would not drop any glass. I would not make a mess I could not clean up. I folded my speech twice and smoothed it until the paper was soft at the folds. I stepped up. I looked out at my people. I saw their eyes. I also saw the space where one set of eyes should have been. I saw it the way I always do, like a chair that is there and not there. The script in my pocket grew heavy. My other paper grew hotter. My mouth went dry. I said the first line of the safe speech. It sounded like the inside of a tin can. I stopped. "Can we try something else?" I asked the room. My voice shook. I promised myself I'd tell a story, but the story on this paper is not true. You could feel the air change. People shifted. Someone coughed. Somewhere near the back, a laugh broke and then held. "I'm supposed to tell you that I feel honored and proud and so on. That's true, but it's also true that I am tired, and I am scared, and I am angry, and I am hopeful all at once, and I don't know how to hold all that without help." I reached into my pocket and felt the edge of the letter I hadn't sent. I don't know why I pulled it out. I wasn't trying to make a point, I was trying not to drown. "This," I said, "is a letter to a mother who asked me if her son seemed happy. I haven't sent it because I didn't know how to write around what I don't want to say." I didn't read the letter. I didn't need to. I held it in my hand like proof that I was not just talking to hear my own voice. I was talking to survive the day. "We are good at being brave in ways you can measure," I said, "but we don't talk about what we carry that no metal can hold. We don't talk about the nights that don't end. We don't talk about the times we stare at a wall and feel the weight in our chest like an anchor we can't lift." I paused and thought of what Johnny had said. "If you can't talk to me, talk to them. They already know. They're waiting for you to say it first. So I will say it first." I said, "I need help sometimes. We all do. And that is not weakness. That's human. We ask each other to lift heavy things. We have to admit when our arms are shaking." I did not plan to cry. I have learned to keep tears where they can't be used. But a tear fell and broke something open I had kept shut for months, and then something else happened. Someone in the front row sniffed. Someone in the back said, "Yes, ma'am." Someone to my left whispered a name. And then a word rose from a place deep in me and came out before I had a chance to hide it. "Help," I said. "That's my word today. Help. If you need help, tell someone. If you can give help, don't wait for permission. And if you're tired of the rules that keep you quiet, I am standing here to say you're not alone." It wasn't the speech I was supposed to give. I can't pretend it was neat or polished. It was a mess. It had broken edges. I ended it by saying, "I don't know how to fix everything. I don't even know how to fix this week, but I can tell the truth, and I can ask you to tell it with me." There was a second of silence that stretched long enough to make me think I had made the wrong choice. Then I heard one clap. It was Johnny. It was not big or dramatic. It was steady, like someone knocking at a door that is locked but will open if you keep knocking in the right way. Then the room followed. Not all at once, here and there, the way rain starts on a dry day. I walked off the stage and the letter in my hand shook. My XO had a look I couldn't read. My chief nodded at me like he had been holding his breath and could finally let it go. Someone handed me water. I didn't remember drinking it. I only remember Johnny leaning over, his voice very calm. "You told the truth anyway. Remember that. It's the only thing that can't be taken from you." The video of that moment went online because someone in the crowd had been filming. I didn't know they were. I didn't ask them to. It was there before I could think about what it meant. It had my voice breaking and his hands clapping and the way the room lifted, just a little. It had the words "tell the truth anyway" in captions. It had a caption out in the world that I did not write. "A captain breaks the script." I should have felt proud. Instead, I felt a kind of fear that tasted like metal. I knew this would ripple. I knew it could drag people I loved into waters they did not choose. I knew my command would not clap. By that evening, my phone was a wild storm. Messages from strangers. Messages from old friends I hadn't talked to in years. Messages from other captains. Messages from moms. From dads. From sailors who had left and vowed never to look back. From a teacher who remembered me as a girl who would read 3 books at once and cry at the end. From a neighbor who watched my dog once and said he had never seen me so clearly as he did in that shaky video. There were angry messages too. There are always angry messages. People who called me a traitor for saying we need help. People who told me to quit if I can't handle it. People who don't like tears at a podium. I read a few and then I put my phone down because that's a kind of poison you can't let into your blood. I met with my commanding officer the next morning. He closed the door and sat down hard, and said things like optics and chain, and careful. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His silence had weight. You understand, he said at last, that this is not how we do things. Yes, sir, I said. I know. You embarrassed people. I know, I said. I embarrassed myself too. But I told the truth. He looked at me like he wanted to be kind and couldn't decide if it would cost too much. You will need to make a statement, he said. We will emphasize that you are proud of the service. We will emphasize that you do not speak on policy. We will emphasize that you were speaking as an individual, not as a representative of. I let him talk. I nodded when nodding was needed. I agreed to avoid a few words. I did not agree to lie. He didn't ask me to. Not in so many words. That is not how it works. The system is built on words shaped like soft stones. They don't look like weapons until you feel the bruises. I walked out and felt the air strange around me. I felt like I had stuck my hand into a machine I didn't fully understand. I kept my head up. I kept my back straight. I went back to work because the work doesn't stop when your life goes online. Around noon my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Same number. I answered. It's Johnny, he said. Is this a bad time? I looked at a wall calendar with 1,000 boxes and arrows and notes. It depends on what you're going to say, I said, and heard my own attempt at humor fall flat. I'm going to say 2 things, he said. First, you did the right thing. Second, you're not alone. The world will try to make you feel like you are. That's how it protects itself. But you're not. It was odd to hear comfort from a man I had met yesterday. But sometimes people step into a space you didn't expect and hold it up long enough for you to rest. I let myself lean on his words for a breath. I don't know what happens now, I said. Neither do I, he said. That's not a reason to stop. I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. You make it sound simple. It is simple, he said. Not easy, just simple. Tell the truth anyway. After that, things moved fast. The video kept spreading. People took the line "tell the truth anyway" and turned it into posts. Into a song. Into a hand-painted sign on a fence next to a school. A high school teacher in Ohio played it for her class and asked them to write letters to someone who needed one. A nurse in Texas got her team to set up 10 minutes at the start of each shift to say how they were, for real. A group of dads in Oregon started a meeting called The Porch, where they sat and ate chips and talked without pretending to be fine when they weren't. In a small town in Tennessee, a man who had worn his tough like a coat, took off that coat for an hour and told his pastor he had no idea how to keep going. And the pastor said, I don't either, but we can stand here and admit it together. There were other kinds of fires too. Angry posts, threats from people who don't like when the ground moves under their feet. There were calls for me to be punished, to be moved, to be taught a lesson. It all ran together like a storm with 100 voices that all want to be the loudest. In the middle of that, a woman I didn't know sent me a message that knocked the wind out of me. She said, my son served under you. He always told me you saw him. He told me you said you would tell us the truth when it mattered. He's gone now. Not because of a battle with any enemy you can see. He's gone because he was alone in a room he had been taught to call home. Thank you for saying we are not alone. I saved her message. I read it when I wasn't sure if I had lit the right kind of fire. There was a hearing. Of course there was. There were rooms with long tables. There were papers with words like review and procedure. I sat straight. I answered questions the way I was taught. Clear, honest, careful. I did not apologize for crying. I did apologize for any way my words had made it harder for my crew to do their jobs. I said both can be true. At the end of the week, I got a call I had not expected. It was from a retired admiral whose son had died 3 years ago. He asked me to come speak at a gathering of families who had lost people to the kind of battle that leaves no scars you can salute. I said yes because I didn't know how to say no to a need that sounded like my own. I told my CO. He squeezed his eyes shut like he had a headache that lived between rules and hearts. He said, "Be careful." I said, "I will." We both knew careful had not kept us safe so far. While all of this was happening, the country did what it does. It argued with itself. It made jokes and turned them into shields. It yelled and then it listened. People from places that never see each other except on maps looked at each other through screens and asked questions that don't fit in a comment box. It was messy. It was human. And still, under it all, something steady kept knocking. Truth anyway. Not easy. Just simple. I held that line like a rope and kept moving. The next twist came when my request for personal time was denied. They needed me in place, they said. It was not personal. It was timing. It was the map of needs in conflict with my own small map. That night I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the letter I hadn't sent. I read it out loud to the air. It said what I had always wanted to say in a way that didn't make things better or worse. It said, "I see your son. He is not a file. He is not a line on a report. He is the way he laughs when he burns toast and then eats it anyway. He is the way he rubs the back of his neck when he is trying to be brave. He is the way his shoes are worn on the inside from someone who always leans into the room. He is loved. He was loved. He is still loved." I sealed it. I wrote the address. I drove to the mailbox and put it in. It was not policy. It was not a solution. It was a truth anyway. It was the one thing I could still do with my own 2 hands. The official statement we released was fine. It said I spoke from the heart. It said the Navy cares. It said the right things. It said nothing about the nights and the long walks and the phone calls that come with silence on the other end. But here is the thing about a machine: once it starts to move, people find ways to keep it going. Sailors and Marines, teachers and nurses, drivers and cooks. An actor with a careful voice who knows the power of a well-placed clap. The country lit up in small lights. Some burned for one night and went out. Some stayed on. "Do you regret it?" my mother asked me one day. Her voice so soft I almost missed it. I thought about my father, who would have told me to aim for straight cuts even when the wood is warped. I thought about my crew who had hugged me without words. I thought about the mother who wrote me on a night when she couldn't sleep. I thought about the way my chest felt lighter. Not because the load had changed, but because I had stopped pretending I could lift it alone. "No," I said. "I don't." The news moved on. As it always does. New storms came. New fights. New fires. But the phrase stayed with people who needed it. Tell the truth anyway. It showed up on a whiteboard in a clinic. On a sticky note inside a lunchbox. On a bathroom mirror written in lipstick next to a heart. On a gravestone chosen by a brother who wanted everyone to know that his sister had told the truth even when her voice shook. Weeks later I was called to headquarters. I did not know if I would be thanked or punished. Maybe both. That day the most senior person I had ever met looked at me and said, "You created a problem, Captain." I stood still and waited. He let the sentence sit there long enough to make my stomach twist. Then he added, "A good one. We should have had this fire years ago." I didn't know whether to breathe or brace. He told me they were forming a task force. He asked if I would serve on it. It would mean less time on the water. It would mean more time in rooms that make me itch. It would mean rules and lines and slow changes. It would mean a different kind of service. It would mean I might never get back what I had before. I thought about my ship, my home, the hum that lives in your bones when you know your place. I thought about my crew and the way we know each other's footsteps. I thought about the way the ocean holds secrets and gives them back only when it is ready. "Will this help?" I asked. He didn't give me a promise. He said it is a chance. I said yes. I said yes. Because I could not tell the truth and then refuse the work that grows from it. I said yes, and walked out feeling like I had left part of me behind and could circle back for it later. The day I packed my office, a young sailor who had never met my eyes before came in and stood there and used the words I had used. "I need help," he said. We sat. We talked. I got him where he needed to go. He left. I cried. Not because it hurt. Because sometimes pain is proof that you are made of something that feels alive. I saw Johnny one more time. He was quiet again. He thanked me and then shook his head like thanks was the wrong word. "You did what you had to do," he said. "The fire was already there. You just lit the match in a place people could see." "I am not sure I knew what I was doing," I said. "Most good things start that way," he answered. "We didn't do photos. We didn't make a statement." He asked me how I was. I told him, "Today I am okay." He nodded. We both knew tomorrow would be a new answer and that was fine. I don't know where you are while you hear this. I don't know the shape of your room or your day. I don't know the words you hold back because you don't want them to land hard on someone's floor. But I know this. There is a simple thing that changes a life. It is not easy. It is simple. Tell the truth anyway. If you can't say it to someone you know, say it to a stranger and let them put a hand on your shoulder. Say it to a piece of paper and put it in the mail. Say it to a mirror. Say it to the air. When people ask what Johnny and I said that day that lit a fire across the country, I tell them the truth. He asked me if I was okay. I said no. We didn't fix a thing in that moment. We did not solve a problem that has been growing for years. But we took a match and struck it. We held it up. We said, "Here is a light." It is small. It shows the space between us. It shows our faces. It shows that we are here and we see each other. That is how fires that warm and don't destroy begin. In small hands. With simple words. With the courage to say what is real. There is one more thing I want to tell you. And it is not a twist as much as it is a promise. When you tell the truth, you will lose things. You will also gain what you forgot you had. Your voice. Your breath. Your place next to others who would have kept silent if you had. That's what happened to me. That's what is still happening. In rooms I haven't been to, between people I will never meet. In hearts that have been heavy too long. I kept the letter from that mother's message. I kept the letters I finally sent. I kept all the words that rose from strangers who told me that my cracked voice gave them a crack to put their light through. I lined them up on my table some nights and I read them out loud, and I say the phrase that first made my own breath return. Tell the truth anyway. The country is listening. Even when it pretends not to be. The country is made of people with hands that shake and hearts that keep going. The country is you. The fire is yours to keep and yours to share. If you felt something in this story, please like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps more people find these stories, and it keeps this fire burning.